I'm Kevin, I'm 64 years old, and my recovery goal is to spend more time travelling Australia in my four-wheel drive and to travel overseas.
I'm Donna, I'm 45, and I'm really looking forward to being a grandmother in the future.
Hi, my name is Jens and I'm 65 and I love my rock and roll and I'd like to continue rock and roll for a long time to come.
At the time of diagnosis, I had been experiencing 9 months prior abdominal pain, and I did think that I knew something was wrong, and I had just become so busy and involved in my life and had lost track of priorities. So at the diagnosis, it was certainly, there was a huge amount of emotion. One of those was, look, I really should have been looking into this much earlier than I did.
It was rather unusual, I suppose, and everybody's different, but I'd been going through a period of irregularity with my stomach and my bowels and my general well-being, which had been going for some months. And then suddenly I found that my bowels had stopped working. And after about 3 days, I was in front of the gastroenterologist, and he had me in hospital within 24 hours. And within 3 or 4 days of that, I was on the operating table. So I'm rather unusual in the sense that I didn't know that I had bowel cancer until I came out of the operation, and the surgeon and my wife were at the foot of the bed and they told me then that I'd had cancer.
I had bleeding of the bowel, bleeding, and I just ignored it, thought it was fine. And long story short, I went to my doctor and he was really concerned, so he gave me a list of specialists. I chose one, went straight away pretty much, and he diagnosed it straight away as cancer 4, and I didn't believe him. I said, I haven't got time for that, I've just landed a good job, I'm happy, I'm healthy. He said, well, you have. And I went, okay, my life's going to change now, what do I do?
I was shocked because there's a very common misconception that bowel cancer is an older person's disease. I was finding it very hard to come to grips with, but I did receive a lot of support from the medical profession, but also from my community, and of course the Bowel Cancer Australia website was a great place to visit as well.
It shocked me in the sense that I had something wrong with me, but there was a relief that they'd found the cause of the blockage, and there was a relief that they'd found the cause of my not being well for some months. So it was mixed feelings.
It seemed like a roller coaster when I look back. It was the end of February 2014, and the colonoscopy detected a very large tumour. The tumour was blocking my colon, so within a week a medical team was pulled together and I had surgery on the Saturday. So it did happen very quickly. It was a week of CT scans and MRIs and PET scans, blood tests. The whole week was a bit of a blur.
No time to think at all. No, it was just so quick. And I was in hospital for, I think it was 10 days. And I went through the usual process of recovering from the operation, which wasn't easy. But I should also add that when I came out of all of the drugs and things given to me during the surgery, there was the bag. And that was something that was completely new. And so I had a whole process to go through physically and emotionally of getting used to having the bag. And I was told very quickly and very early on in the process that the bag wouldn't be there permanently, that it would probably only be there 6 months.
I was taken to a room by one of the staff at the Austin Hospital. Olivia Newton-John Austin Hospital is where everything happened once I'd had the operation. And they showed me what I'd be going through after my chemo and radiation of, I think it was 6 months. I carried the chemo, which was uncomfortable. It was just like carrying a baby's bottle. And when they did the operation to block my bowel and carry the stoma, and I carried that for 8 months, chemo I knew was supposed to kill the cancer, and the radiation was supposed to burn it. So either way, both of them together had to work. So I just did them because I thought it was the right thing to do.
I spoke to people throughout the week. I didn't have time to really look into a second opinion because there was a sense of urgency around removing this tumour. But I felt very fortunate with the treatment that I received.
They have a professional stoma nurse who comes in and takes you through the processes. And so I made it clear to her early on in the piece that I would really need a lot of help with it. And my wife was very helpful. So I think within about 3 or 4 days of coming out of the anaesthetic, I was ready to start thinking about it more seriously myself. So it didn't take me as long as perhaps I thought it was going to take.
I tend to research and like to be well informed, and I thought I was doing the right thing when I was diagnosed with bowel cancer. I went online and put in a search engine a few different terms, but it's not something I wouldn't recommend because you can't rely on the information as being credible all of the time, but then, you hear all the bad news as well through Dr. Google. So I realised very quickly I was best listening to my bowel surgeon and my oncologist. I'd had private health cover for many years. The only time I'd really utilised that was through obstetrics when I was in hospital having babies. But in saying that, I have friends that have had their oncology treatment through Frankston Hospital and the public system, and they were really well looked after and were in very quickly as well.
My treatment was for 9 months. During that time it was chemotherapy, and that included regular visits to the oncologist. So I would meet him, he would analyse a few things, and then I would go in to do the chemotherapy. And that happened once a fortnight for 3 days.
Throughout my treatment, I started to keep a journal. I kept it up from day one until I had my stoma bag removed, and then I stopped. I don't know why, but I just did. And then going back to the treatments, how I dealt with them. Not very well at first. When they said to me I'd have to have the bag, I was petrified, mortified, all of the above, because I thought, will it be smelly? How am I won't be able to go out. How do I change? How do I do that? Because you're dealing with your internal organs on the outside. The help you get from the stoma nurse, which was a male nurse, he was amazing. He helped me right through it. He said, "You'll be fine by the time you get out, Jens. This is what you do, and if you have any problems, always ring me or come in and see me, whatever."
Throughout the whole process, you do receive a huge amount of information, and there's medical terminology, and you seem to be going from one visit to the next. So it's really important, I found, to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask if you don't understand anything, or just for it to be in plain English as well. I kept a journal every day, and that was great to be able to look back on, because with chemotherapy, sometimes there's fatigue associated, or there are days that you're obviously not feeling your best. But I just had a scrapbook, a good old-fashioned scrapbook, a journal, and didn't hesitate to ask questions and to ask for help, and actually embrace those offers of help. And that really kept me on track, and not to look too far ahead, just to look at each day. And it was just a blank diary, and I wrote down my treatment plan, different medical terms that I had explained to me, but also it's terrific to look back on now, because I had written down my feelings and the stages that I was at. So I'd highly recommend people keep a journal and just keep track of all of that information and the medical information that you receive in the one place.
So I bought myself a laptop computer, and I used to sit for the 2 or 3 hours in chemotherapy writing or doing emails or whatever. And I found that was a great way of getting through the chemo without feeling maudlin about it.
And how do you feel through it when you come home? My daughter always had, if she was home and she was studying at the time too, ginger with hot water and manuka honey. Those three, just keep drinking them, bring them on, just like the champagne. It helps you get through it because they help with the nausea. So you have a mug ready and the kettle boiling all the time, and lay down and rest, because if that's what you need, you just do it and don't feel guilty, because that's what's going to get you through it. Resting, positive thinking, and good, true family and friends around you that are there to help you. And don't feel guilty, because I never asked for help until I got this. Once I was diagnosed, it took me a while, but I started asking for help. I need this and I need that, and I'm feeling down or whatever, or I need someone to take me somewhere, and they were there.
I continued to work, and that kept me active, my mind active, and but some days I found it really difficult to multitask while I was having chemotherapy. Looking back now, I would have cut back on my working commitments. But look, I feel I managed well over that 6 months. Just I should have really embraced more offers to assist.
And one of the most important recommendations the GP gave me was to see this particular psychologist. And he said that she would be absolutely ideally suited to my situation, which it turned out that she was and still is. So I still see her regularly.
The more I went along through my chemotherapy, the more questions I asked. And I wish I asked those questions more at the start of my diagnosis, because getting as much information as you can is terrific and of great support. And your head's, you feel quite overwhelmed with the information that you get at the start. So it's really important to have a good support network.
Well, what I found once you get into this whole stoma and bag routine, you find that there's a massive support network out there for you. And you can go and pick up your equipment at a place that's used to dealing with people who have that. So I would say to somebody who may be having to go on the bag for the rest of his life or her life, it's not as daunting as what it really does appear to be, because of the support network that you've got. And I found that to be very, very encouraging, even though I was only on it for about 6 months.
One thing that I would have loved looking back is actually having this opportunity, being able to talk to people that have gone through the process and that have survived and that have, had a really great result. That to me would have been really, really helpful and reassuring at the time.
I've been a yoga practitioner for longer than I can remember, and so for me to get back into yoga after the operation and after I was physically capable of doing it was an easy decision. And fortunately I found a place near where we lived where the lady was very sympathetic to my condition. So she devised a routine for me which was not going to exacerbate the surgery or anything like that. The other thing is that my wife would get me out regularly walking, and I found that very, very important. But the most important to me was getting back in the water swimming. And so I found a rehabilitation pool at Melbourne Aquatic Centre, and I found that made a huge difference. And then I gradually moved from that into the pool so I could then again do laps.
One thing that you do find with a cancer diagnosis is that everybody knows somebody that has died of cancer, and they will always share that with you. But the success stories are out there as well. And, we're proof that you actually can succeed and have a really great outcome. So positive outlook was certainly something that helped me, but getting out and enjoying fresh air, just One thing that I really appreciated, I always thought I did appreciate the little things in life, but not until I had a cancer diagnosis did I really start to appreciate the little things like salt air on the beach, the sunshine, going for a walk along the beach with my dog. That was part of my success, I believe, in dealing well with the chemotherapy and the oncology treatment, and trying not to sweat the little things. Just
Go for it. The other thing is to try and maintain your positivity by doing positive things and making sure, and I think this is one of the most important things, is making sure that when you get up in the morning you've got a reason for getting out of bed and don't just sit back and be maudlin about it all.
After treatment, I was still carrying the stoma bag, and I remember asking my stoma nurse, now I want to try and go back to dancing socially, see how I go. What can I do? I don't want that bag jumping around and causing me embarrassment. So there he spoke to me, and we organised special knickers that hold you in like a girdle, and some people didn't even know I had a stoma bag, and girlfriends that knew that what I'd been through were just, I can't believe you're doing it, good on you. So you don't have to give up everything. You just ask for the information that you need to help you get through it as best as you can. So yeah, I started dancing, and it made me feel better within myself. I thought, well, this is a bit more normal. I can do this once or twice a week. I get tired, but that's okay, it's worth it.
As I was going through chemotherapy and the 6 months of chemotherapy, it was probably after the first month that I started to think about the end of my treatment. And my advice would be to think of something that you've always wanted to do and aspire to get there after your treatment, to be well enough to do it. And for me, that was planning a wonderful celebration holiday with my family, with all 6 of us to go away. And that worked really well for me.
Stay active, that's right, yeah. And if it's only for 2 hours a day, you still do it. And even if you can only walk 100 metres, just walk 100 metres, because the next day you'll probably be able to walk 110.